welcome to a new episode of our program, The Daily Debate, Thursday evening. I'm Yasmin Bakir. Tonight we're going to be talking about the practical steps that have emerged in the country under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, reflecting 7 years back into presidency and specifically towards integrating youth into the various executive institutions, whether they are in the political leadership, which also believes today in them and just have the capability and the ability to not just work on them, but also make them part of this economic and political cycle. And that has made a big change, because that for very long was this huge gap that was left between the leadership and the youth sector here in Egypt. Now they're more trained, there's more trust in them, they're being helped by the older people in different institutions through their shared expertise and to the different institutions. And specifically, we're going to be shedding light on the PLP, the Presidential Leadership Program, which is one of the successful programs that has been proven so far in Egypt regarding integrating and promoting youth. So much has been done in terms of support by the leadership as a form of a trust into the youth, and in return the youth have also become very optimistic. They're innovative, they're energetic, they're young, they have a lot of ideas, so definitely believing in them and giving them the opportunity to integrate within the society here in Egypt did make a large difference, and we can see that clearly today. We're seeing youth at very young age, not very familiar to the system and the format of how Egypt has been working for very long years. We're seeing them, on the contrary, now earning different posts, whether they're in the governments, governors, ministers, or even in different high posts in the institutions. I have a very interesting guest today, because he was part of the PLP program, and he's working in a very distinguished place right now. And not only are we going to discuss generally about youth and how the president and his leadership and the government has exerted efforts in this regard, but he's also here to share his experience, and this is also very important. I've had also the pleasure to meet him a couple of years ago at the PLP program. So our guest this evening is going to be Mr. Mohamed Amer. He's a member of the Presidential Leadership Program, the PLP. He's also the coordinator of the International Relations and Conferences. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you for hosting me tonight in the wonderful and the insightful The Daily Debate. And I think it's a big privilege to be here with you and to be hosted in the Egyptian television. One doesn't get the privilege to be here every day. Speaking of youth, it's safe and sound to say that youth from 19 to 29, they count for like 19 million Egyptian people. And that's
a huge opportunity,
yeah,
a huge number.
Equal to 1/4 of the Egyptian people.
Young generation.
Yeah,
and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We have a lot to discuss, mind you, Mr. Mohamed, but let's take out this first report here. And President al-Sisi asserts the state support to the Egyptian youth on the international youth level. Let's take a look at this.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi assumed power in 2014 and put youth and their assuming of office on top of his priorities. And this was evident in the Egyptian states taking several steps towards that goal at all levels. The president has been paying great attention to empowering Egyptian youth on all walks of life, as he was keen on helping young people take charge of leading positions and participate in decision-making process. The president has also gave his directives to implement training and qualification initiatives for young people to participate effectively in public work. The president also outlined legislation by Egypt to support entrepreneurship, including 2 laws regulating ride-hailing services in the country, as well as regulating food trucks. Sisi directed the government to implement a number of initiatives to support and accelerate the growth of entrepreneurs to develop innovative businesses in today's competitive economy. Since President Sisi took office in 2014, the government has held almost a dozen of national youth conferences. Each was held in a different governorate to ensure the engagement of youth across the country. The president also launched in 2017 the World Youth Forum, of which 3 editions took place. The forums consisted of around 9 parallel sessions and workshops daily for almost a week, offering a platform for youth from around the globe to share their success stories, experience and research projects, and to hold a dialogue with panelists who are experts in various fields and international officials. President Sisi has called on young people to work hard innovate, think outside the traditional frameworks, be confident in themselves, and resolve their ideas and dreams to a tangible reality that will bring Africa a brighter future, a decent life, and a suitable place among peoples and nations.
Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Daily Debate. I'd like to welcome once again my guest, Mr. Mohamed Amer, who's a member of the Presidential Leadership Program, the PLP, and the coordinator of the International Relations and Conferences. Mr. Amer, thank you so much for coming once again.
Thank you so much again.
As we've seen in the report, seems to be that empowering youth and integrating them in the part of the Egyptian, actual political leadership is not a slogan anymore, but is actually something in reality and came true. What are your comments on that?
So I was saying that young people from 19 to 29, they account for 19 million people, which is 1/4 to the Egyptian people, which is a huge power to take into account for the endeavors of developing our country. In the last few decades, we had certain problems. First of all, which is employment, which is the most important problem that we had. You do not have to wait for the recruitment letter from the former government in order to work and to provide for your family. Speaking of myself, I tried entrepreneurship, which is a better solution now for your problems, and you can open your own business, you can provide for your own family, you can try making up your mind and giving more solutions for yourself. You do not have to wait for the former recruitment. You remember the recruitment letter in all times, so you do not have to do this now. But speaking of empowering people in employment sector, the government now provides a lot of entrepreneurship platforms and programs. I can talk about the Presidential Leadership Program, which is #1 now. I myself get my honor to be a member of the Presidential Leadership Program, PLP. His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched the initiative of the Presidential Leadership Program in 2015, and then he called the year of 2016 the year of youth or young people. Presidential Leadership Program, or PLP, it's a platform for young people to be qualified politically, socially, administratively, and the country itself wanted to have a big and huge base of young people who can be qualified to be injected in the state and the administrative system of Egypt. We have a lot of years of, you can say, corruption, you can say bad governance. So now young people are now injected into the administrative system. I get to say that I'm honored to be a friend of those people who are being recruited as vice ministers. They are vice governors. I'm from Kalibaya, by the way, so I have 2 vice governors in Kalibaya. So
and they're all from the PLP program?
Yes, of course.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the PLP program. Maybe we can start talking about this right now. And you're specifically the second batch graduate from there. And I'll also share my personal experience. I've met you there at one of the sessions. And thank you so much. And I was very impressed because a lot of people do not really know what happens inside the PLP program. It's a very outstanding, highly qualified and illustrated program. And it brings youth from all different institutions who are very competitive in terms of their potentials, and you have a program where you start to train them on different levels. I took part in training them to deal with the media, for instance, and it was very interesting to see the mentality and the background of these different individuals. So to just clarify again, it is a challenging program, but it does include a lot of hundreds of youth from across the governorate, where you just pick the top into the positions, but everybody else gets the opportunity to learn. Talk about this experience, and I believe that another batch graduated, the third batch as well, and I believe the program itself has developed since the first batch graduated. How much of a difference did that affect you as a youth who is entering into this working life with or without the PLP program? What has it added in terms of value to you?
Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful question. And let me trace back to the year of 2016 when the President, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi initiated the program. The application process is very easy. You log into the internet and then go to the website of the program and then put in your information, personal information, and then public information, general information about your skills, your potentials. And so on, and then you are being chosen if you are competent enough, and then when you go into the program, you go into certain levels and certain academic lessons. It goes for like 8 months. Yes, I remember 8 months. Starts with national security, management, financial management, administrative skills, and then you get graduated from the PLP. Then what happens after that? You can compare your mindset before PLP and after graduation. Of course, speaking of myself, it totally changed my life. It totally changed my mindset. And by the way, I finally or recently, the last year, I got appointed at the Accountability State Authority. And of course, I think PLP changed my mindset because I got much more information about how the state works, how ministers think, how principals think. So I think, and I encourage a lot of young people in Egypt to apply for the PLP, and it's very easy to be one of us.
Now, apart from the programs such as the PLP for training and integrating youth who are with high potentials into these different administrative process institutions, there's also the fact that technology is playing a very important role in our life. That should also be integrated in terms of training, because you believe, I'm sure that youth would believe that training is part of how you develop yourself. Every day you should learn something new. How has that also added to the fact that now everything and all institutions are going digital towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Program agenda here in Egypt?
Of course. I was talking about the problems that we had facing young people in Egypt. One of them is the lack of digital education. And most recently, Dr. Tariq Shawqi, Minister of Education, he launched a very promising plan to develop education in Egypt. It's a long-term plan. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to take a lot of time, but I think its results are going to be very encouraging for our future. There is a big gap between academic life and job market requirements and needs. Young people graduate from the university, they do not have the digital background. By the way, the repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic, it pushed us into a digital world. Now, every single conference, it's online. If you're a teacher, you're teaching online. If you're a translator, you're translating online. A lot of jobs are done.
I just hope it doesn't go like that forever, because we're going to start facing, other sort of psychological outcomes from this fact that you're isolated into this virtual world.
You need to have a digital background. You need to have computer skills. You need to have developed computer skills, not just computer skills. So,
and the creativity of how to deal with the online. It's not like face-to-face. You're not going to be doing all the talking.
Young people are using tablets in our schools, in our universities. We're using digital information, and we have a lot of skills to handle in order to graduate much better young people for the future of our country.
Now, the main parts of empowering youth are, not just the political side. There's the social side, there's the educational, as you've mentioned, and there's the economic, political, and the psychological aspect as well. So how do you see the state has worked on all these different aspects together to help in supporting youth and prepare them? Because they are the future leaders in Egypt. They will be the future decision makers. The new Egypt, or the new republic, as they say, is going to be led by these youth in a coming generation. How does this work out?
This was one of the most products of the PLP. I'm talking about the initiative led by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, which is called Decent Life, or in Arabic, Haya Karima. We are focusing on the social aspect of young people, or the big sector of the Egyptian people. In the last few decades, we suffered from a lot of poverty, corruption, bad life situations. And by the way, few meters away from this place, from Maspero, there has been a place that's called Maspero Triangle. It has moved away. It was filled with slums and rural areas and bad places. And then this place is moved away for a better place for a better lifestyle.
Decent
yes,
one.
yes, it's called decent life for a reason. So we are providing decent life for decent people. The Egyptian people deserve much better than this, and we are working on this. This is the social aspect that we are focusing on
And it's
right
also
now.
psychological, if you believe it or not.
So if you are
It's
living
definitely,
in
when
a
you
bad
have a
place,
decent
you're
life,
going-
you're going to psychologically be better.
Of course, this is very important. So if you want to make out a good person of the people, so you need to provide decent life for them.
Now, engaging youth as deputy prime ministers, deputy ministers and governors, as well as you've mentioned, and also other deputies for other institutions, during the past 2 to 3 years, from your perspective and your analysis or opinion, has that changed the performance level of the government?
Yes, I totally believe that. By the way, during PLP and during the World Youth Forum, which is a main product of the PLP, we made something that's called simulation, or the government simulation.
Session. Yes, that was outstanding, especially
Yes,
the last one in 2019.
Yes,
that was really...
Of course, and by the way, it's what was national and international, by the way. At the national level, we made a simulation for the government. Each one of us represents a minister or a governor, and then we discuss a lot of problems and issues in our places. For example, I'm the governor of Qalyobaya, for example, and then I discuss my problems in my government.
And do these come from research, or are they
Of
from
course, from
feedback?
real
Because
life.
that from
Real
real life,
life, from the
research as
street.
well, apart from real life, because there's a difference, you know now that, between researching on something in terms of survey and between the public opinion of what's said and, you know, the things that are not part of the reality.
Yes, of course.
So it was based on a reality.
Yes, of course. This is the most important thing about PLP. It's coming from the street, right from the street. Yes, we are doing research, and most of us are researchers, but we got our information, our numbers, our figures from the street. So I was the representative of Qalyobaya, so I had to know much more about the problems of the street in Qalyobaya. My colleagues from different governors and from different authorities, they talk about their problems and their issues, and we are trying to figure out solutions for a better future for our country. So this is the national level. At the international level, we have the 3 versions of World Youth Forum. So in 2017, we had the simulation for the UN Security Council. So we were discussing the problem of the crisis in Syria. The second version, we discussed the problems with the African nations, and the last version, we talked about the Euro-Mediterranean people. So I think we moved from the national to the international level. This is wonderful, I think.
I'm glad you mentioned the World Youth Forum, because that was also another initiative by the president. It was a very generous initiative as well, because I believe for the first time ever a president would sit with youth and talk to them on this very human level and listen to them and to answer back the questions. And this two-way of communication was never found, even in the most democratic countries, believe it or not. So again, how has that also made that, not just that boost for the youth, but really got them close to the leadership in terms of the trust issue and the notion of patriotism as well, if you may say? I mean, there's a lot of things that are included in that. Maybe you can help describe that.
Of course. So throughout the last few decades, we suffered the problem of a gap between young people and the leadership. But from the
it's like they both live in different worlds.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. But I think His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi solved this problem with a lot of initiatives. Most important of them are the PLP. And by the way, there is an academy now that's called the National Training Academy, which is a product of the PLP as well. The gap is now bridged between the leadership and people and young people. By the way, we said with the president, we said with the ministers, we said with the prime minister, and we discuss with them the problems that we suffer from, with real numbers, with real figures, and they respond to us with certain solutions, with certain discussions, and so on. I think,
and that's how things work to the best.
Of course.
And solutions are being solved, and there's always a plan B, plan C in terms of crises. Now, the World Youth Forum, or the International Youth Forum, was also a very interesting idea, because that's, you're going from being internal to international. So, and the irony was that youth around the world, they share same common dreams, they share common goals, they have common fears, and they have common challenges. And that was the irony of it. And seeing that through this youth Forum was also a very brilliant idea. Tell us your experience with that. I believe that COVID had paused a session that was supposed to take place in 2020, but we've had 3 versions, I believe, of the International World Youth Forum. Each year there is a more increased number of participants. We're seeing successful stories from around the world and international figures taking part in it. It is just very well organized, very well planned. The sessions are very well updated. Tell us all about this experience as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. And from the year of 2014 to 2016, we had national conferences. But for surprise, in Ismailia, one of us proposed an idea to move into an international level.
Yes, I remember the president saying, and he said next year we're going to do an international.
In Alexandria, His Excellency declared that we're going to move to an international level. And then we were ordered to make World Youth Forum, the same forum that we had nationally, but at international level. So the first World Youth Forum in 2017, it took place in Sharm el-Sheikh, and we focused on certain areas with certain discussions. We made the simulation for the UN Security Council, and I got the honor to be a member of the organizing committee, and I was the vice president of the media committee. We collaborated together in order to make a success of this forum. By the way, it was made for only one World Youth Forum, but after its wonderful success, His Excellency President of the
yearly one.
Yes, he said that it's not going to be only one. It's going to be repeated every single year. So we had the version of 2017, 2018, and then 2019. And due to the precautions of COVID-19 pandemic, it stopped right now, but I think it's going to get
It better resume back on reality. It's not something that can go online. We were just talking about that.
It's not going to be online, of course.
Okay, now, how do you view the adoption of the youth initiatives and Mr. Mohamed, and the ideas, and they're translated into actions through the presidential directives? Because it was not just a level of breaking the gap, or bridging the gap, I may say, and breaking the silence, but it's also an idea to transform these ideas from the youth into reality on the ground. And we're seeing so much being implemented in projects, and the mentality and the mindset of the administrative process here in Egypt that has for long been very rigid, become more flexible, become more updated, and become more modern. How was that done by the youth?
Okay, you can now count the members of our Egyptian cabinet, and you can see at the faces, they are finally young, they are finally fresh. You can see every single cabinet.
Young and fresh, that sounds very interesting. Young and fresh, all right.
Yes, they are young and fresh mentally.
Yes,
mentally,
that's exactly.
Psychologically and mentally and everything. You can see every single cabinet reshuffle. You can see young people and young faces at the level of the ministers, vice ministers, governors, vice governors. We have a lot of members of these people, young people, are being injected into the administrative system in Egypt. I think new ideas are being injected in turn. So I think the state is very serious about this. Better solutions are now put into our problems, which are inherited from tens of years, now are being, we are trying to solve these problems. Through young people, I think these problems are going to be solved much more quickly.
How do you ensure the effective participation of youth in all aspects of the national work in particular? Because that's also a thing. There's a difference between having an administrative position in one of the institutions or governments, and there's the national work, which I believe is a higher level of devotion and dedication and innovation in this response. Tell us more about the difference in this perspective.
Okay, talking about the national level of collaboration between young people, I said that we had an initiative that's called Decent Life or Haya Karima. We have different initiatives. Like, for example, the insurance system, the medical insurance system.
Interesting.
Yes, of course. It started with Port Said. It started with Port Said. Now it's been tried in different governorates in Egypt. I think this was a very important product of PLP, and the president himself focused on this because we have medical insurance in Egypt, but we do not have the proper medical insurance in Egypt. And by the way, the president of the medical insurance in Egypt is one of us, is a PLP member. Yeah, of course.
That's very proud. It's really interesting to see that.
Yes, of course, and he's very good person to deal with, and he had a lot of ideas to inject into the system. I think we are collaborating for the best of our country. We have a lot of ideas, and even if they are not now implemented in the ground, but I think one day it's going to be implemented.
Yeah, as a person who's young and fresh, as you said, and going into, I mean, no, Egypt is different today maybe than 3-4 years ago. I know that the way has paved at a much more better position today. But speaking during the last 3-4 years, you said ideas. Was it really an issue of finding ideas, or was it the issue of implementing these ideas at the lowest cost, or with a time frame? What was the equation that made it very? I'm sure that the ideas were not coming out of space, but there must be something special about having a push for these ideas to be implemented. I really wonder, curiously, what this is about.
It's not about the idea itself. It's not about the people who think about the idea. It's not about the people who are implementing the idea. It's about the people who listen to the young people.
That's the thing.
Yes,
so that's the equation.
We need principals who listen to young people.
And trust in them.
Of course.
What they say is going to...
Yes, of course. It's trust issue. We had a lot of trust issues in the last few decades. Now it's being solved. So ideas, there are a lot of ideas. Solutions, we have a lot of solutions. But we need those who can listen to us, who can trust us, who can... by the way, our papers are very ready. They are ready. We can submit them. We can do a lot of things on the ground. So it's not about the ideas. It's about the mentality, about the people who listens to us. So I think...
so the whole mindset has changed, right, Mohamed? It's not just...
mindset.
Yes, not just the mindset of those graduates from the youth, whether PLP program or so, from the government itself.
Yes, of course.
Another report is about to be aired, and Egypt's ministers explore ways to foster human capital investment, and we'll be back to discuss further on this issue. Please stay tuned.
The Ministers of International Cooperation, Local Development, Agriculture and Land Reclamation and Social Solidarity held a meeting to discuss strengthening efforts made by the Egyptian government in investing human capital, particularly through projects that support communities and rural women. Done in cooperation with multilateral and bilateral development partners, the projects are aimed at improving the living conditions of rural communities, in line with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's Decent Life presidential initiative. Minister of International Cooperation Rania Mashad said that the projects supporting rural communities and women are weaved in the ministry's portfolio, bringing together national entities and global development partners to align efforts in order to ensure effective implementation. And Mashad added that the government, in order to push for a sustainable and inclusive future, has taken several steps in stimulating investment in human capital and in capacity building across various fields, including health, education and women, among many others. She elaborated that in 2020, the Ministry of International Cooperation concluded cooperation agreements with development partners worth $900 million, aimed at enhancing investment in human capital. Minister of Local Development Mahmoud Sha'rawi pointed out the ministry's support for the projects through its various programs, such as the Upper Egypt Local Development Program and the Decent Life Initiative, all of which help in providing job opportunities for the youth, women and farmers via low-interest loans. The economic support program, Your Project, is important to establish micro and small enterprises, advancing the village's socio-economic status. For his part, the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, Said Al-Qusir, stressed the importance of projects related to agricultural and rural development and the need to invest in these areas as a priority in the coming period in order to achieve agricultural sustainability and modernization. Implemented across 30 villages, the project aims to support food security and improve economic and social conditions. Minister of Social Solidarity Naveen Al-Qabbaj also said that 67% of the beneficiaries under Social Solidarity services are rural residents. Al-Qabbaj added that the ministry is a key partner in the Decent Life Initiative, investing in the human capital development programs, maximizing family and childhood development, and raising the living standards of citizens. In 2020, the Ministry of International Cooperation secured $9.8 billion worth of development financing agreements including $6.7 billion to implement 70 state sector projects and $3.2 billion for the private sector. In 2019, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched an initiative aiming to improve the standards of life for the neediest community groups across the state and raise the level of efficiency of the daily services in villages. Called Haya Karima, or Decent Life, the initiative targets the development of Egypt's countryside in 3 years. Egypt's Sustainable Development Plan for the fiscal year 2021-2022 has allocated £200 billion for the social initiative Haya Karima, and the plan was approved by the Parliament.
Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Daily Debate, and I'm still joined in the studio with Mr. Mohamed Amer, member of the Presidential Leadership Programme PLP and also coordinator of the International Relations and Conferences. Mr. Mohamed, now PLP was just a start of it, but there was other things going on. Let's start by talking about the endeavours of the National Training Academy that kicked off in 2018. I believe it was affiliated to the presidency itself. So tell us more about, you know, how important and efficient is this training academy program?
Okay, let me say that NTA, or the National Training Academy, is a product of the Presidential Leadership Program. We decided that we can move the platform of the PLB into a physical platform or a school to make a school out of it. So we made the idea of making a platform, physical platform out of it. NTA was established in 2019. It's affiliated to the Egyptian presidency, and now we have different plans and different programs affiliated to the NTA.
So is it actually a degree or a diploma you take when you...
Yeah, it's more like a training program. We have different training programs, at the top of which is PLB. We have moved to the international level, focusing on the African depth, like the African Presidential Leadership Program. So we are inviting young people from the African countries to learn the same thing that we learned here, so they can develop their own countries, which is for the benefit of the African continent. Another program is the EPLB, the Executive Presidential Leadership Program. It focuses more into the executives in the Egyptian government, officials of the Egyptian government, so they can develop their potentials, their mindset, and so on. So we have the Advanced Presidential Leadership Program. You can say it's a level 2 of the PLP. So we have different ideas and plans and programs.
And all of these programs are to integrate and prepare the youth for the administrative public posts.
Yes.
So we're talking about the public posts. So anybody who is just a graduate cannot be benefiting from such programs unless they are being prepared to take part in the governmental sector. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or are they having plans to integrate all youth around Egypt, whether they are going for a public post or not, in terms of certain programs or certain sessions that they would take? The national security session, for instance, is very useful. Everybody, every single citizen in Egypt should be very well aware of that, for instance.
Yeah, of course. And
are these future plans?
Yes, of course. We have a lot of future plans, and do not be surprised if that we got like the African PLB. We have, we can say, like the Asian PLB, European PLB. We can move into more international level out of the little idea that we had in 2016.
So what are the plans, Mr. Mohamed, for the upcoming stage, ensuring the effective participation, of course, in youth, in all the aspects of the national work or the governmental sectors or the administrative process? What are the plans in this regard?
I think since last year, the COVID-19 changed the whole world and the way we think, the way we act in our lives. So I think we have a lot of ideas to implement in our future. We are waiting for WIF, World Youth Forum, to discuss these ideas internationally. We're not talking about Egypt in itself. So we have international platform in order to get more into collaboration with other countries. I think we have a lot of problems to solve, and we have a lot of ideas to implement on the ground.
You know, I just have a very interesting question that just popped out of my mind at the moment, taking part in not just the PLP, but in the World Youth Forum and so forth. So when you sit and you speak to these youth from other countries, tell us about the capabilities and the potentials they have. Is it very similar here to the level of extent after joining such a program, or are they, do they think differently? Are they trained in a different way? I mean, what makes the potentials between the international youth and the Egyptian youth in this regard?
On the sidelines of 2017 WIF, I sat with a lot of African young people just like me, and they were astonished by the idea that we had in Egypt. So you can say and set assured that we have a lot of potentials here in Egypt that's not there in a lot of countries. And by the way, we are learning from much more developed countries. So I said with the African people, I said with the European people and young people from different countries, we have our own potential and we have much more. So we can learn from them and we can teach those who do not have them. So it's about collaboration, it's about integration in our international society.
And now with you working after being trained and involved in so much things to do with this program itself as the PLP or so, how do you find yourself in terms of your establishment? You said your mindset has changed. Yes, how useful has that been in your career? And because why I say that usually when people start working, it takes them, when they say minimum 5 years experience, it's because internationally this is the period of time where you can at least be ready to deal with people on a more different mindset and mentality. But with this program, I think got short years for you.
Yes.
So how has that been beneficial to you in your field, in your career?
Yes, I know it's a very short period, by the way, but I learned a lot through them. By the way, 1 year ago, I got appointed at the Accountability Authority. I'm now a member of the African Relations, International Relations and Conferences. Yes.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. So I got the information, I learned it through this short period, and then I got the experience. I'm learning
as you work.
Yes, of course, as I work. So I'm dealing with African countries. African countries, by the way, they need extra care. They need much more information to know about. So I'm using my experience.
Yes, you're sharing expertise with them. It becomes very helpful. I believe that's what the African nation needs.
Yeah, of course.
Share of expertise.
We need to focus on the African depth much more in the
So do you do training programs between different African countries to sort of engage the African youth? Learning from Egypt, I believe, has successful stories, Egypt, in different aspects.
Of course, and by the way, this was a very nice accident. During my work, the last month, I got this young man who told me about the Presidential Leadership Program and his experience in Egypt. He visited Egypt before, and he talked to our colleagues. And then I was in my work, and he told me that was a wonderful experience to him, and he wants to join us, and he wants to establish the same idea in his country. He was
Interesting.
Yes, he was from Togo, and
nice.
I think we need to focus on the African depth. They need us, by the way. They need us. We need to be there, and I think we are going to be there very soon.
I know that dreams of youth are endless, and they are far beyond, you know, the stars, if they may say.
Yeah.
But if I would say the dreams of youth today, I mean, especially with having a leadership who has made so much things that were just imaginary come true in 7 years, that you feel like you can't even hold your breath to sort of count all these amazing things that have happened on the ground in Egypt, and you see every single day. And that had paved the way for our dreams as youth to come true. Have dreams of youth changed now after 7 years of leadership, seeing promises being made on the ground, or are they shooting for the stars, as they may say?
Life is challenging. That's one thing to say. I think young people need to work much more on their skills. Job market is very challenging, so you do not have to wait for the government to recruit you.
Yes.
To recruit you. You can work
on yourself.
And by the way, I got graduated in 2010, and I opened my own business. It was a success till I got appointed. So I didn't wait for it. I developed my skills. I developed my potentials, and I get money out of it.
What you would advise them? Because the thing is that you want to advise youth to work on themselves, but
Yes,
youth don't know the channels that they should connect with to work on themselves. If you just put on a list of to-do lists
Yes.
for them so that they could follow on
Yes.
as part of it, what would you tell them?
If you are a fresh graduate, okay, first of all, you need to model your lifestyle. You need to wake up early. And
I was just going to say that. You need to wake up
Yeah,
early.
of
I tell
course.
my students that. They're like, well,
oh my God.
you want to really, deal with life? You need to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, of course. I do this every single day. My health is much better now. I'm a much better person about myself, psychologically, mentally, physically. So, first of all, you need to wake up early. And then you need to make a to-do list daily.
That's like a to kill first option for them.
of
Wake
course.
up early.
Wake up early, yes.
Yeah.
Then make a to-do list, daily one. Now I'm going to study. After that, I'm going to go to work. After that, I'm going to work on something. And then after that, at the end of the day, I achieved number 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to have a daily practice.
The thing
on
is that,
yourself.
Mr. Mohamed, youth lack patience, and then they can get lazy and lack the motive. And many of them think that once you've been well educated, then you're already ready to receive all walks of offers out there in the market. But then again, that's not how it works. But at the same time, we see even the requirements of recruiting people, whether in the public or private sector, they don't need to sort of psychologically drain you to test you for 6 months and 1 year and so forth. I think a 3-year probation period is the international standards that are being used here.
Yes.
So again, what would you advise youth in terms of the ones who are impatient, who have certain dreams to fulfill, but you can't get there before you go through a number of other roads that are a bit...
So let me say something. You need to be patient. You need to be patient about your future. You are not going to have your dream job from the first day of graduation life. By the way,
Dream job. So that means you're going to do a lot of other jobs you have no idea
of
about
course,
before you
yes,
reach there.
I myself did that. So I opened
We all
my
did
own
that.
business. All of us.
We all did that.
I
Well,
opened
we're
my
not
own
specifically
business.
saying that if you're an engineer or that you're going to do something
You do
far
not
away
have
from
to
your
work
school.
on the best engineering company you needed in the first day.
Exactly.
People say real education comes after graduation. You need to develop your skills. You know what skills that you acquire, the skills that you like, so you need to develop them before going into the job market. So the job market
And the
will not
concept of
recruit.
training as well, a lot of people skip
Yes.
that, especially when they send them on tours outside
And advise them
for
to-
conferences. They would go and tour around the city and not be interested to attend the sessions. And that is something that only, unfortunately, Arabs do. I don't want to be very picky, but Arabs, they have this kind of mentality of not wanting to really take training very seriously.
One advice to say, you can start developing your skills before graduation.
Unless you get paid for training, then you won't really do it.
Of course, we will do this.
Yeah.
But one advice to give, please start developing your skills before graduation. Do not wait till your graduation to develop your skills. You know what you like. So make a list out of it. So I need computer skills, I need digital skills, I need pronunciation skills, I need English or language skills. So you can learn much more during your free time. After that, you will not have time. Myself, I'm looking for a single
Even though we
minute.
wake up at 6 o'clock in the
of
morning,
course.
and we still
So,
don't have time.
of
Yes,
course,
that's
it happens
so true.
every single day, and
That's
I
so
do not
true.
have a minute to do much more that I did in the last.
Now, when we talk about the competition or the challenges in terms of when you can get there but never be too old to get there, you know what I mean? Because now things have been are working vice versa. You'd much more get better opportunities when you're younger, but when you are past your 45, your chances gets a bit dimmer. Is that true?
I do not think so. If you are 60, the mentality, if you have the mentality of being young, you'll still being young. So I'm 32, still young. If I'm 62,
Are you?
Yeah.
All right, interesting. And I'm going to tell you how old I am after this.
But you're still young.
I'm going to tell you right after this.
If you are 62, if you are 32, you still have the mentality of being young. That's it.
And if we want to talk about the new republic, that's everybody's hashtagging now, looking very much optimistic onto the new form of what Egypt's going to be like. You think that the opportunities for youth in the near future is much more different than it was, because so much has changed.
Yes.
But does that make it more challenging for them to fit and compete into whether it's such programs or such academies and so forth? Because now if you were 100 that were the top notch back then, now you're going to be 5,000, for instance. After 2 years, you're going to be 10,000. And I'm sure it's not going to accommodate all this number. So again, what would you advise the youth in the near future?
The New Republic, talking about the New Republic, we are going to move to the new administrative capital. I think new ideas are going to emerge. So you need to cope up with what happens in the future, what happens now, which develops or makes you ready for the future. Make a list, as I said before, make a list of your ideas, make a list of your skills, your potentials, develop yourself and make yourself ready for the future, because the future will not be waiting for you if you are lagging behind. So,
but adding to that is the fact that we're also going through towards a sustainable development.
Yes. And this is sustainable as well.
That's the thing. So why is it important within the state's efforts to encourage these youth to work towards the sustainable development? And believe it or not, a lot of people up until this moment are not very well aware of what sustainable development is.
Yes, of
What
course.
is it?
Okay, life is quick pace. We live in a life it has a quick pace. So if you are lagging behind, if you are sustainable with yourself, if you are not sustainable in your skills and ideas, you are going to, as we say in Arabic, we are going to lose the train of being required for the job of your dreams and so on. So you need to develop yourself sustainably. This is the main definition of sustainable development. At the personal level, you need to develop yourself sustainably. Do not waste single day of your life without acquiring a new skill. And this is important for your future, for your life.
It seems to be sounding that as we are exceeding with the years, the fact that being employed in the public sector or for the government is very challenging than it is for the private sector. And that is also something very strange and new to the mentality and the mindset, to the world, basically. What does this give as an indication to the performance and the competitiveness that is ongoing between the public sector and the private sector in Egypt today?
Comparing between the private sector and the public sector, now the new administration, it's different from the old one. The dream of the dream job that you need to have, the job that starts from the 9 and then you go home at 2 o'clock.
Do they have these jobs?
It ended forever.
They have a job from 9 to 2?
No.
Where is it? Tell me. There is no job from 9 to 2.
I'm looking for that, but it ended forever.
And you have weekends or holiday? Do they have a job that gives you a holiday on the weekend?
I do not have those. But it ended forever. So if you are comparing between the private sector and the public sector, it's not much big.
Yes.
It's not that big. It's not big. So you want to be recruited in the public sector, you need to be ready for that, because you're going to be assigned with a lot of tasks. It's not like old times. No,
not like old times. We talk at the beginning about the projects, the national projects, which are large and all over the place in Egypt as well. A lot of youth have been employed, because at the beginning you said employment was one of the main challenges in Egypt. Now we see a lot of youth being employed in these national projects across the governorates in Egypt. Has that helped so much, in not just for them in terms of enhancing experience, but also representing Egypt in the quality and the outstanding performance that they do? How has that worked out, from your opinion?
Yes, of course. Now we can look into the cities or the new towns that are being established, and the universities that are being established. Every single governorate. For example, I have applied for a lot of universities like New Mansoura University, Galata University. The future is challenging. The future is very it needs a lot of skills. So I believe in order to move for these places, in order to move for a new administration, in order to move into a much better life, you need to develop your skills and potentials.
Absolutely. We have 2 minutes before our show ends. What would you like to say on a final note? I know it's the first time that you come here on Nile TV.
Yes,
so
of course.
What would you want to share? You've had a lot of experience going on. You have taken the road, as they say, or the step from the beginning with the development of the country. You've shared into the changes of these different initiatives, took part in the sessions, graduated from the program, and ended up to a very outstanding job that's very challenging as well. So what do you want to say in this regard?
The most important advice that I provide today is that you do not need to wait for the job of your dreams. You can wake up, you can develop your skills, you can look for the opportunity. The opportunity is not coming to you. You need to come to it. Do not forget to develop yourself and live your life in the same time. So I think this is important. Mentally, psychologically, you're going to be comfortable with yourself.
Interesting.
Yes.
I was very proud and honored to have you joining me.
Thank
It's
you so
good to
much.
see you after so long. Mr. Mohamed Amer, member of the Presidential Leadership Program, the PLP, and the coordinator of the International Relations and Conferences. Thank you for coming
Thank you so
in.
much, Doctor.
Good luck, of course. Maybe
Thank you
maybe
so
I'll
much.
see you a
It's an
minister
honor.
one day.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you so much. It
Thank
will be
you.
an honor.
And of course, this is a very interesting episode because when we focus on youth, it's very essential that we see a live example and someone who has been going through all these stages and discusses exactly what it was like to be part of this program and how much of an added value that was to him, and how has that affected his career and his mindset. And maybe that was the key word here, because it's not just an opportunity, it's a mindset that you get to think differently and see things from a different perspective when you get to train and learn more about what's going on in your country on all levels. That brings us to the end of our episode of the Daily Debate. I'm Yasmin Bakir, signing off. Thank you for watching.